The red sky over Verrex 7 burned. Commander James Carter stood on the bridge of the Resolve, staring at the screen. Smoke rose from the colony below. Explosions lit up the night like firecrackers. People were running, screaming. "Status report," James said, his voice steady. "Enemy ships still bombarding the colony." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Raina Moss, replied, "Shields are weak. Civilian losses high." James clenched his jaw. He had seen this before, too many times. Pirate attacks, raider ambushes, life on the outer rim was brutal. But this felt different. The enemy moved in formation. Their weapons were precise. This was no random raid. "Bring us in low," he ordered. "Prepare dropships. We're getting those people out." The Resolve tilted and dove into the chaos. As the heat from the planet's atmosphere brushed the hull, James turned to the comms officer. "Open a channel to the colony," he said. "Let them know help is coming." The officer nodded and worked quickly. James's voice rang out across the burning city. "This is Commander James Carter of the Resolve. We're coming for you. Hold your ground." 10 minutes later, boots hit dirt. Carter led a team of soldiers through the smoke and fire. Buildings crumbled around them. A mother screamed for her child. A man bled out beside a shattered wall. "Secure the west quarter," Carter shouted. "Get those people to the evac zone." Raina ran beside him, firing at attackers in dark armor. "They're not pirates," she said. "Too organized." Carter nodded. He already knew. They pushed forward. The evac shuttles landed with a roar. Soldiers herded civilians aboard. Explosions rocked the ground. Then, a flash of blue light struck the street beside them. A small drone hovered in the air. Its markings glowed with faint alien script. James fired. The drone exploded. He ran to the wreckage and knelt beside it. His eyes narrowed. The metal bore the seal of the Galactic Council. "Sir," Raina called. James stood slowly. His face was calm but his heart beat faster. "They sent this," he said. "The Council." James didn't answer. He looked toward the sky, where Council worlds waited beyond reach. "They want us gone," he said. "They don't just fear us. They're trying to wipe us out." The last civilians boarded the shuttles. James gave the order to retreat. The Resolve lifted off, leaving behind the burning colony. Back on the bridge, James stared at the stars. The Council had exiled humanity 100 years ago, calling them dangerous and unfit. Since then, humans had scraped by in the outer rim, building lives among ruins and rocks. And now, the Council wanted to finish what they started. "Get me the leaders," James said. "All of them. We need to talk." Raina glanced at him. "What are you going to say?" James looked at her, calm and certain. "That it's time we stop running." The war room inside Bastion Hold was cold and dark, deep underground. The walls were metal, old and patched. The lights flickered overhead, but the room was full. Dozens of holograms shimmered in the air, showing the faces of leaders from across the outer rim. Some wore uniforms. Others looked like miners or merchants. All of them were tired. Commander James Carter stood in the center of the room, facing them all. "Verrex 7 is gone," he said. "Not from pirates, not from raiders. The attack was clean, tactical. The drones had Council markings." A few holograms flickered as people shifted. Some gasped, some cursed. A tall man with sharp eyes spoke first. His name tag read Governor Varn, Colony, Eltros 5. "You expect us to believe the Galactic Council is attacking colonies? They exiled us. They didn't declare war." "They just did," Carter said. "This wasn't a warning. They want us dead." A woman with a shaved head leaned forward in her projection. "We can't fight them. We barely have fuel to heat our homes." Others muttered in agreement. "We fight," Carter said. "Or we fade away, one colony at a time." Later, after most had disconnected, only a few leaders remained, the ones who believed him. One was Admiral Kai from the Northern Rim. Another, a quiet old engineer named Bram, who ran the largest salvage yard in the sector. Bram spoke first. "I've seen the Council's tech come through my yard. Pieces from broken drones, old relay stations. Your story fits, Commander. They've been watching us for years." Carter nodded. "They don't want us to unite." Kai crossed his arms. Even if we fight back, we don't have the numbers. No ships, no weapons. What's your plan? Carter stepped forward. We need more than weapons. We need hope. And I have a lead. He tapped a console. A map appeared. An old star chart with one system blinking red. A message came through before the Virex attack. A courier ship barely made it out. The pilot died. But he gave us these coordinates. Kai frowned. Dead system. That sector's a graveyard. Maybe, Carter said. But he called it a vault. Ancient tech. Something powerful. Something the Council doesn't want us to find. Later that night, Carter stood alone in his quarters. He looked at an old photo, a younger version of himself in a clean Earth uniform, with two other officers. One of them was his brother. His brother had died in the first wave of exile, when the Council drove humanity out of the core systems. Carter had survived, barely. Since then he had fought to protect what was left. He put the photo away. Outside, the Resolve hummed with energy. His crew prepared for departure. Rada met him at the launch bay. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "No," he said honestly. "But if we sit still, we're finished." She nodded and followed him aboard. As the Resolve lifted off, Carter looked back once more at Bastion Hold, one of the last safe places for humans in the Rim. He knew they couldn't hide forever. Next stop, the vault. Whatever it was, he hoped it was worth the risk. The Resolve glided through the emptiness between stars. Dust clouds drifted across its path. Faint pulses from distant beacons blinked slowly in the dark. Commander James Carter stood at the main viewing panel. Eyes fixed ahead. The star system they were heading to, code-named Echo Black, was dead. No traffic, no signals, no life. "ETA to vault system?" he asked. 6 hours, replied Reyna from the helm. "All scans quiet." Carter nodded. "Good, let's hope it stays that way." While the ship traveled, Carter used the time to visit nearby colonies, places not far off their course. They weren't planning to stay long, but he needed allies, fuel, and news. The first stop was Ragnar Station, a floating scrapyard built into the bones of a ruined Council warship. Old metal groaned as the Resolve docked. Inside, the station smelled of oil and rust. Carter and Reyna met the station boss, a wiry man named Daz, with a robotic arm and sharp eyes. "What brings the Council's favorite outcast here?" Daz smirked. "Looking for allies," Carter said simply. "And parts. Maybe both." Daz led them through piles of salvaged junk. "Council's been poking around out here. Ships flying dark, cloaked. You're not the only one who's noticed." "They're hunting us," Carter replied. Quietly, system by system. Daz paused and looked serious for once. "Then you'll need more than allies. You'll need unity. And humans aren't good at that anymore." Carter gave a dry smile. "Maybe it's time we change." The second colony was worse. Lorian's Reach, once a proud settlement, was now falling apart. Crops had failed. Water was scarce. People looked thinner than they should. Mayor Hallie, a woman in her 60s, met Carter with a tired smile. "We've heard whispers," she said. "Some say the Council's cleaning house. Others say they're coming to finish the job." "They've already started," Carter said. "We need to stand together." Hallie looked away. "We don't even have fuel for our transports." "I'm not here to take anything," Carter said. "But I promise you this, we're going to fight. When we win, you'll never have to beg for help again." Her eyes locked with his. Then she nodded. "Then go win." Back aboard the Resolve, the mood was heavy. Carter walked through the ship, speaking with his crew. Engineers, gunners, medics. They all believed in the mission, even if it scared them. In the mess hall, a young officer named Bran asked quietly, "Do you think we'll really find something in that vault?" "I don't know," Carter said honestly. "But I know what we'll find if we do nothing." 6 hours later, the Resolve arrived in the Echo Black system. The planet below was gray, covered in ash storms. No cities, no lights, just old data logs that said something powerful had once been hidden here. Reyna brought the ship into orbit. Landing zone found. It's rough, but stable. Carter looked at the screen. The planet looked lifeless. Still, something deep inside him said this was the right place. "Prepare a ground team," he said. "We're going in." The dropship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Outside, thick clouds of ash swirled like smoke. The surface below was cracked and dark, covered in old lava flows and broken rocks. No signs of life, no signs of war, just silence. Commander James Carter sat strapped in with the ground team. 5 soldiers.
Reyna, 2 tech specialists. All ready. All nervous.
"Keep eyes sharp," Carter said. "We don't know what's waiting down there." The ship touched down hard. Dust blew across the windshield. As the ramp dropped, the team stepped into the silence. Their boots crunched over black gravel. The air was thin, dry. The wind moaned like a distant voice.
"This place gives me the creeps,"
one soldier muttered. Carter didn't respond. He was already moving toward the coordinates. They followed old scan data to a ridge of jagged rocks. Behind it, half buried in the ground, was a structure. It was huge, made of smooth, dark metal. No seams, no doors. Just a sloped wall covered in faint, glowing symbols. Alien symbols. Reyna walked beside him. "This must be the vault." Carter nodded. He placed his hand on the surface. It felt warm, even through his glove. "Let's find a way in." The techs set to work. They used scanners and drones to map the surface. After 2 hours, they found a small opening, barely wide enough to crawl through. "It's not natural," one tech said. "It opened when we scanned it. Then it knows we're here," Carter said. "Move in, carefully." Inside, the vault was quiet and cold. Long corridors stretched in all directions. The walls pulsed with slow blue light. It wasn't dead, it was sleeping. The deeper they went, the stronger the energy felt. Carter could feel it in his bones. Something old, something powerful. Finally, they reached a central chamber. It was vast, circular, with a raised platform in the center. Above it floated a glowing orb, surrounded by thin rings of light. It gave off a deep hum, like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Reyna asked. "A signal core," one tech whispered. "It's ancient, but it's alive." Carter stepped forward. "Can it be used?" The tech nodded slowly. "Yes. If we connect this to our relay systems, we could reach every human colony in the rim at once." Carter stared at the orb. "Then we do it." They worked fast, but as they began the uplink, alarms flashed on their scanners. Unidentified ships in orbit. Reyna shouted. "They just dropped stealth. 3 Council warships. Pull the data now," Carter ordered. "Get ready to move." The vault trembled as distant explosions echoed above. The Council had tracked them here, and now they were closing in. Suddenly, the chamber lit up. The chamber lit up. The orb pulsed bright blue. A deep voice echoed in their minds. Not in words, but in feelings. Unity. Memory. Awakening. Then the orb released a shockwave. Harmless, but powerful. The techs stared at their screens. "It's done," one whispered. "The message is out. Back on the Resolve." Carter stood before the comm screen. The signal core had boosted their transmission across the entire rim. He spoke clearly and simply. "This is Commander James Carter. We are no longer alone. The Council fears our strength. But we are not finished. We are the fire they couldn't kill. Stand together. Fight back. We rise now." Across the rim, humans listened. On war-torn planets. In old ships. In quiet stations. They heard the call, and one by one they answered. Carter looked out the viewport as the Resolve rose from the planet. The Council had tried to stop them, but it was too late. The fire had already spread. The message had traveled fast, faster than anyone thought possible. Across the outer rim, in dark bunkers and broken stations, people heard James Carter's voice. Colonies that had lost hope stirred awake. Long-hidden ships powered up. Flags were raised again. For the first time in decades, humanity stood together. A rebellion had begun. On board the Resolve, the bridge buzzed with energy. "We're getting responses from over 40 colonies," Reyna reported. "They want to join us. They're ready to fight." James Carter looked at the map. Red dots blinked across the screen. Every one a human outpost answering the call. "They'll need a victory," he said. "Something real. Something that proves we're serious." Reyna pointed at a flashing system near the center of the rim. "Council relay station here. It monitors rim traffic and reports to the core systems. If we take it out, we send a message and cut their eyes off." Carter nodded. "Then that's our next target." The station was called Relay Prime. It floated in a dead zone of space, guarded by 2 cruisers and a fleet of drones. Fast, well-armed, and always watching. Carter called for a fleet meeting. His allies patched in: Admiral Kai, Salvage, Lord Daz, and others from colonies far and wide. "We're not ready for a full war," Kai warned. "One wrong move, and they'll crush us. Which is why we strike fast and hard," Carter said. "Relay Prime isn't just a communications hub. It's a symbol. If we destroy it, they'll know we're not afraid." Daz smirked. "Sounds suicidal." "I'm in." The fleet gathered in a cold sector nearby. Old cargo ships had been turned into warships. Miners brought modified haulers with cannons welded on. Even small fighter squadrons joined the effort. It wasn't pretty, but it was strong. Carter addressed the fleet. "We've been scattered for too long, forgotten, exiled, but we've survived. Now we fight for every life the Council cast aside. We fight for a future of our own." Cheers echoed through the comms. The attack came at dawn cycle. The Resolve led the charge, diving through enemy sensors before they could react. Drones swarmed them, but Carter's fighters held the line. Explosions lit up the darkness. Laser fire cut through space. Carter's voice rang through the comms, guiding ships with calm precision. "Focus fire on the towers. Break their shield grid." A freighter exploded nearby, but its final shot hit the station's main antenna. Sparks flew. The relay flickered. Inside, Council officers scrambled to respond, but it was too late. One by one, human ships breached the defenses. Carter and Reyna led a boarding team. Inside the relay station, they moved fast, disabling systems and uploading corrupted data. The Council wouldn't be able to track them anymore. As the last charge detonated, Carter gave the order: "Get clear." The Resolve pulled away just as Relay Prime went up in flames. The explosion lit the sky like a second sun. Back on the bridge, silence filled the air. Then the comms lit up again. Cheers. Applause. A single message repeating: "We're with you, Commander. Humanity stands." Carter sat back in his chair. He felt tired, but stronger than ever. The Council had lost their eyes, and now, for the first time, the Outer Rim belonged to its people. The flames of Relay Prime still burned in the minds of the Council. Inside their high chamber on Zarin, the Council's core planet, alarm spread like wildfire. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had struck first and won, not with borrowed strength, but with unity. At the center of the Council's war table stood High Strategist Vec Tarn, cold and calm. "They've tasted victory," one counselor said, voice trembling. "They're growing bolder." "They're dangerous," said another. "They must be erased." First raised a hand, silencing the room. "They are not a threat," he said. "They are a flame, and flames die without oxygen." He tapped a star map, zooming in on the rim. "We cut off their supply lines, strike their allies, and most of all, we bring down Carter." Back in the rim, Commander James Carter prepared for what came next. The human fleet, now stronger than ever, had returned to Bastion Hold. New ships had joined. Colonies sent fuel, weapons, and people. Hope had turned into resolve. But Carter knew the Council would not stay silent. They would come, hard and fast. "They'll send Vec," Reyna said as they stood in the command room. "He's never lost a war." "Then we'll give him one he can't win," Carter replied. Their next mission was clear. Protect the jump gate at Narrows, the only route linking the Council's space to the rim. If it fell, the Council would flood in with full force. If they held it, the rim would stay free. The fleet moved to Narros. They didn't have much time. 2 days later, Vectarn arrived. His fleet dropped from warp with brutal precision. 8 Council destroyers, a command cruiser, and dozens of strike drones. More ships than Carter had seen in one place since exile. Carter's fleet waited in silence above Narros. Smaller, older, but ready. "Let's hold the line," Carter said. "For every colony that burned, for everyone they cast out." The battle began in seconds. Council drones rushed ahead, swarming the front. Human fighters met them in tight formations, moving like one. Explosions filled space. Shields flickered. Hulls cracked. Carter's voice moved through the chaos. "Push the flank. Rotate defense lines. Don't let them break the gate." Reyna directed fire from the Resolve, targeting the cruisers with precision strikes. Admiral Kai's wing came in from the side, using asteroids as cover to hit Vec's rear ships. It was working, until Vec entered the field. His command cruiser cut through the human lines with brutal force. One blast disabled 3 ships. His strategy was cold and fast, striking weaknesses Carter didn't know existed. "We're losing ground," Reyna shouted. "They'll break through in minutes." Carter stared at the screen. Then he made a decision. "Prep boarding crew," he said. "I'm taking the fight to Vec." With Reyna and a small team, Carter launched a fast assault shuttle. They dodged debris, slipped through enemy fire, and crashed into the side of Vec's cruiser. The inside was sleek, silent, and cold. They fought their way through guards and locked doors. At the center, Vec waited. He stood tall, dressed in silver armor, his eyes calm and sharp. "You've made a mistake," Vec said. "You should have accepted your place." "No," Carter said. "You should have left us alone." They fought hand to hand. Vec was strong, fast, trained. But Carter had something else: purpose, anger, hope. After a brutal fight, Carter pinned Vec down. But instead of finishing him, he stood back. "You want to kill me?" Vec growled. "No," Carter said. "I want you to see what failure feels like." He walked away. The human fleet saw the signal. Vec's cruiser was disabled. The Council forces hesitated. Then slowly they began to retreat. The rim had held. The battle was won. Back on the Resolve, as the crew cheered, Carter sat quietly. He had faced the Council's strongest weapon, and survived. But he knew the war wasn't over yet. One last step remained. The stars were quiet again. After the battle at Narros, the Council fleet pulled back. The outer rim remained free. For now, wreckage floated in space, a reminder of the price paid. Ships were gone. Lives were lost. But humanity had won. Inside the Resolve, Commander James Carter stood before a large window, watching the debris drift. His face was tired, but his eyes were steady. Reyna stepped beside him. "We've received transmissions," she said. "The colonies are celebrating. Some are calling you the shield of the rim." Carter gave a small, tired smile. "I'm not a shield. I just lit the fire." 3 days later, a message arrived from the Council. It was not a threat, not a warning. It was a proposal. The hologram flickered to life, and a cold voice spoke. "Commander Carter, the Council acknowledges your resistance. We request a ceasefire. We offer negotiations." Reyna stared at the screen. "They've never done that before. They know they can't break us anymore." Carter said, "They want control without war. What will you say?" Carter walked toward the screen, and stood still for a moment. Then he replied, "We don't want re-entry. We don't want your rules. We want freedom. The rim stands on its own now. If you come in peace, we'll talk. If not, stay out." He ended the transmission. In the weeks that followed, change swept across the outer rim. Colonies formed a new alliance, the Free Systems Union. Old rivals joined hands. Resources were shared. Ships were repaired and upgraded. Humans, once scattered and scared, now stood proud. Statter visited many of the worlds he had once defended. At Lorien's Reach, Fields had begun to grow again. At Ragnar Station, Daz had opened a new shipyard. Bastion Hold became the capital of the Union. Everywhere Carter went, people cheered. Not for war, not for revenge, but for peace, earned with courage. On a quiet night, Carter returned to the Resolve. The ship was no longer just his. It had become a symbol, a promise. He walked the halls, nodded to crew members, and stood once more at the command deck. Reyna joined him. "We did it," she said. Statter nodded. "Together." She looked at the stars ahead. "What now?" He smiled. "Now we build. We heal. We move forward." The stars stretched wide and open, and for the first time in a century, they belonged to humanity again.